Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this new invitation. Dear colleagues, I will speak about the School of Connection, rethinking secondary education in the age of networks in the context of Argentina. The transformation of secondary education in the 21st century demands more than curricular reforms or the integration of digital devices into traditional classrooms. A fundamental reconceptualization of what schools are, what they do, and how they relate to the broad social and cultural context in which they are embedded is necessary. The concept of the School of Connection is, in a sense, an epistemological and political intervention, a call to reimagine the secondary school in Argentina as a living network rather than a closed institutional fortress. The fourth school, a metaphor used to describe the modern educational institution, is its traditional form, is characterized by its structural isolation from the social world, its hierarchical organization of knowledge, and its fundamentally unidirectional communication model. In this configuration, knowledge functions as a scarce commodity transmitted linearly from the authoritarian teacher to the passive students. The critical echoes Paulo Freire's fundamental analysis of banking education, in which students are reduced to receptacles of a deposit content, stripped of their capacity for critical reflection and transformative action. What we can add to this Freirean legacy is to situate the problem within the specific condition of digital hyperconnected societies, conditions that render the fortress models not only unjust but also epistemologically obsolete. The proposed alternative, the network school, conceptualizes the educational institution as a dynamic node within broader social-cultural networks. This reconceptualization unfolds three interrelated metaphors: the school as interface, as intertext, and as media ecology. As an interface, the school functions as a space of mediation between systems that have traditionally remained separate, academic knowledge and popular wisdom, the interior of the classroom and the exterior of the community, the analog and the digital. As intertext, it becomes a network of meanings in constant dialogue, where the knowledge produced in classrooms is continually intersected and reinterpreted thought, media discourse, community narratives, and the students' own cultural productions. As a note within media ecology, a concept we developed in dialogue with the work of Carlos Scolari, the school must recognize that the platform through which students navigated daily lives are not neutral agoras, but rather architecturally designed environments that actively works to capture attention, induce effective polarization, and commodify sociability. The central concept of the pedagogical model we propose is conversation as the structuring principle of learning. This is significant theoretical advance. Within these frameworks, conversation is not a casual or incidental activity, but the fundamental epistemological practice that which knowledge is co-constructed. It is intertextual and multimodal, interweaving, writing, audiovisuals, digital and bodily language, multidirectional and networking, flowing among students, teachers, external experts, and community members. we can think that this pedagogical notion of conversation constitute an update and radicalization of Freire's dialogic principles for the era of distributed digital networks, while also incorporating Henry Giroux ideas on the political dimension of knowledge production in institutional setting. The image of the educator as the soldier's meter is replaced by two interconnected roles: the teacher as an architect of interface and as a curator and moderator of conversation. The first implies a fundamental epistemological and political approach to deciding which connections are made visible, which voices are included, and which forms of knowledge are considered valid. The second demands the ability to facilitate productive, inclusive, and epistemologically rigorous exchange, teaching students the conversational skill necessary for democratic deliberation, reason, argumentation, critical listening, and synthesis that transcend difference. This vision aligns closely with Giroux's conceptions of the educator as a transformative intellectual whose task is not simply to transmit content but to unmask the power relation embedded in official curriculum and open space for marginalized epistemology. Technology could carefully considered and not determine its position within these frameworks, resisting both for technolophobic rejection and techno-utopian celebration. Digital technology must be understood as conversational infrastructure, the material substract that implies and achieves pedagogical conversation, allowing the classrooms to connect with the world in real time, democratizing participation in public dialogue, and creating a living institutional memory of a community learner. The broader implications of this model are substantial from an epistemological standpoint. It demands a shift from the individualism that has dominated modern educational thought to the recognition that knowledge is distributed thought network, that learning is situate and contextual, and the intelligence is fundamentally collective. From an ethical perspective, it advocates for what we call a relational ethic of cognitive care, which encompasses epistemic hospitality toward diverse traditions of knowledge or relational responsibility for the effects of one's own connections, and cognitive justice in the recognition of multiple epistemes. Political, it redefines inclusion as not as a matter of providing access to device, but as cultivating genuine participation in network of conversation and creation. It is a concrete response to the tension facing secondary schools today, the fragmentation of social bonds, the crisis of shared thought, and the growing irrelevance of institutional forms designed for a different epistemic era. The School of Connection is above all a space where students learn how to connect knowledge, perspective, peoples, and possibly worlds. In this sense, it speaks to realize that education has always promised, in its best expression, that practice of a more just, more practiced, and more fully shared human life. This is the end, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.